The Foreign Intelligence Service, or SVR, is Russia's primary external intelligence agency. The SVR is the successor of the first Chief Directorate, FCD, of the KGB, as of December 1991. Vladimir is famous for its unique white stone cathedrals, towers, and palaces. Unlike any other northern buildings, their exteriors are elaborately carved with high-relief stone sculptures. Only 3 of these edifices stand today: the Assumption Cathedral, the Cathedral of St. Demetrios, and the Golden Gate. It is also the home of the secondary SVR, a misnomer, for it was here that many of the more outrageous plots were hatched, planned, and carried out. Anton and Sergei had recruited and managed the insertion of the best of the Soviet-era nuclear scientists into the secret Iranian nuclear bomb facility, one that Iran was recently forced to reveal. Anton and Sergei were now busy getting the Russian scientists back out, coordinating it through Anna, for just about everything went through Anna. The SVR had a mole in its building, one who had so far revealed the existence of the Iranian nuclear plant, but not yet the hand of Russia therein, nor the S-500 anti-aircraft system being installed that would protect the plant from destruction. Therefore, the SVR building had been put under lockdown. All transmissions and phones stopped, but for one. Colonel Patov, the de facto and continuing head of the SVR in Vladimir, pondered the graveness of the situation, now wishing that he'd never had to run the damn place. The former commander, the merciless General Burkov, had been done away with by Frederick in San Francisco a few years back. A worldwide manhunt had produced nothing. Burkov had been replaced by General Nikitin, a man who ran the SVR remotely and very poorly at that, one who had never even bothered to have set foot in the place, preferring the comforts of Moscow in the new digital age of armchair management. Patov sat back. He'd been given a week to find the mole, must show progress in 2 days. He didn't miss Burkov, that crazy son of a bitch, but he missed Nikitin strangely, having never met him, for it was all too lonely at the top here now, but what the hell, for Nikitin had always taken all the credit for Patov's fine work. To blazes with them all and their kind, he thought, who is spilling our secrets? Not me, that's for sure. He thought of his wife, Petova. They usually added Anna. Perhaps they could run away from this thing, but no, the Russians left no survivors for events like this. Yet, Patov had already secretly moved his finances to Switzerland, knowing well how to circumvent the ever-present prying eyes. Anna had worked her way up, over 20 years or so, to a position of much importance, the coordinator of all activities. She was pure Soviet Russian from birth, reliable and untouchable, even having a golden heart. She was also a member of the Ninja Empire, their deepest plant anywhere. It was the end, she knew, for there was no micromanaging of this kind of leak, as had been done with the others, to make it appear otherwise. There was no way out. Duty now spelled death. Nor could she shift the blame to Anton or Sergei. That just wouldn't be right. Still, she would try to hold out, perhaps think of something. Her mind drew a blank. Patov paced his office, then called upon his major, Igorov, for company. Anything not to have to go through this alone. They finally decided to put all 3 suspects through the rigors of the new and improved truth serum process that had never failed, although a few had died from it. Not Anna, Igorov protested. Yes, Anna too, commanded Patov. I know, but we must be sure. See you in the morning. Morning had dawned all too soon for Colonel Patov, now drinking a cup of strong black coffee to jolt him back into the day from a very restless night. He read the report. What? All 3 had passed the truth test, then it was given again and all 3 had passed it again. Major Igorov entered, saying, "We double-checked the computers, only those 3 had access, and you, of course, but you did not do it." "Why not suspect me, Igorov?" "Because I was sent here to keep an eye on you, Colonel, and it was not you." "Thank you, Igorov, at least in this case anyway, for spying on me." "My pleasure to vindicate you, sir." "But they are all pure-blood Soviets. Who then?" "It can only be one of them, sir." The phone rang, displaying the name Nikitin. Patov jumped out of his chair. "What does he want? I thought I had 2 days for progress." Patov lifted the receiver and listened. As one must do when a superior calls, just saying, "Understood," before hanging up rather than being hung up upon. "Igorov, our S-500 anti-aircraft construction site has now been revealed to the world." "There is such a project?" "Yes, to protect the Iranian nuclear plant. It's but 1/3 completed though." "What to do?" "Make it look like it was abandoned. Put dust on it, whatever. Get our people out of there immediately." "Will do, sir." "And Igorov, one more thing." "Yes?" "We now have but 1 more day to find the mole, or Nikitin is coming here tomorrow to personally execute all 3 suspects." "Damn, we need these people. It's the old way, Igorov, the sure way. I'll try, sir. No try do. Maybe Nikitin leaked the information himself. Unlikely, he's an old hardliner, and if he did, there's nothing we can do about it. Agreed. Find that mole or I'm dead. Yes, sir? There was no progress during day, even after Patov had personally and intensely interviewed all three suspects. Exhausted, Patov went to sleep early, sending nothing to Moscow. General Nikitin's armored limo pulled up outside the SVR building around 3 a.m., its flags flying. Major Igorov, being on night duty, received their demands at the front door and went up at once to wake Pavlov. You have to get up, sir. Nikitin is here. What? In the middle of the night? Yes, sir. Tell them we're under lockdown. No one comes in. They're waiting outside. And no one goes out. I had to bring the three suspects out. What? I could hardly disobey them, sir. Well then, what else do they want? You, sir. Me? They insist, immediately, and as you are. Igorov, take over. You will not see me alive again. Pavlov was already a beaten man, an inmate waiting on death row, and so he, dazed as he had become, collected a few personal items and went out into the street in his nightclothes. The limo door opened, he got in. A general of the Russian army was sitting there in full uniform, looking most unhappy. The limo sped off, no one saying a word as all the while the miles passed on by through the empty city streets. Patov knew to stay silent unless spoken to. He noted the outskirts of the city passing, and yet no one said anything. The country kilometers now eating up the limo with their darkness. A perfect spot for an execution, he thought. Patov couldn't take it anymore. Where are you taking me, Nikitin? He bellowed, no answer. Patov stayed quiet, thinking better of his outburst. They stopped at an old farmhouse, pulled the limos inside, got out, and lit a small candle. So, this is it, figured Patov. No one spoke. Nikitin lit up a smoke and offered one to Patov, who gladly took it and lit it up to calm his nerves. Halfway through the smoke, Nikitin leaned in as if to speak. The face somehow seemed familiar, but Patov couldn't place it. Colonel Patov, said Nikitin very slowly, you transferred all your funds. No one could know this, thought Patov, but they did. For safekeeping. To use after you'd escaped this mess? No. It was no use. They had him. Another long silence ensued. Remember the tunnel, Patov? Patov was really confused now. What tunnel? The one under the train tracks. Patov strained his memory. So many incidents over the years. Then he began to recall some bits and pieces of it. I'm not exactly sure. Remember, it's lights out for me? Yes, you reached up and smashed the only light bulb in the tunnel, leaving your sweater hanging there in the dark to fool us. Then you escaped. You are... Frederick. I am. You should have shot me on sight. I couldn't. I know. And you've come to dispose of me, like you did Burkov? No, that was a different case. He sure was. Burkov was a madman. You, Patov, were just doing your job. Then where are you taking me? To Switzerland, where you can meet up with your money and your wife. My wife? Yes, she's in the rear partition of the second limo. You would do this for me. One who once tried to capture you? Is this some kind of a trick? Well, you can't stay in Russia now, can you? And we will let bygones be bygones. Pardon my Russian, but it means that all is forgiven and forgotten. Petova stepped out and embraced her husband. Patov looked up and over at Frederick, finally asking, all this in exchange for what I know?
Frederick smiled. We already know most of what you know. You are free, Colonel Patov? Is there such a word in Russian? Yes, but at least I will bring you up to date. I know, Patov. Just let it sink in while we get you some traveling clothes. Patov returned to his chair and sank into it, no longer fully knowing how or who to trust. Patov added, Anna must work for you, Frederick. She does, and she is now safe within the limo. And the other two? They have to come along. I see. Anna stepped out and walked over to Patov. Patov looked up and said, Ah, golden heart, I knew it had to be you. You were not meant for this cruel line of work, Patov. I put in a good word for you. Thank you, said Patov, almost crying now. My treat. If I may ask, how did you get the information out? All the emails, phones and such are monitored every second. We even look at strange conversations for unusual word use. That would be telling. Really? It's beyond all that. That's not possible, is it? Frederick looked at a secure readout on his phone, indicating that Operation Fire was now underway. A few moments ago, the Israeli defense minister had been on the phone to the American president, who replied, just before hanging up, "Thanks for the notice and Godspeed." 6 Israeli jets were already in the air, 1 far out in front, 3 in the middle, and 2 lagging back, all of them quickly approaching the Iranian border. The defense minister and his aides had gathered around the computer screens. "We almost waited too long," said one. "The S-500 site is partly operational, although they are now covering it with dirt to hide it." "It can still operate through the dirt. Yes, indeed. Why did we wait for a madman to come through on his public promise to destroy us?" "Yes, especially when such a boast would only make our actions tonight all the more necessary and right in the eyes of the world. We are getting soft. Maybe. Iran is even isolated from its Muslim neighbors. Insanity. The jets have crossed the border, sir."
The S-500 anti-aircraft system came to life through the dirt, noting one blip and taking out the lead Israeli aircraft. But it was only a drone, carrying no one and nothing of interest but a missile now tracking out of the debris and down through the sky toward the S-500 site, its approach obscured at first. They will never see it coming, they will glory in the kill and will not even be checking their radars for a second or two. They didn't, and so a large part of the S-500 apparatus was soon destroyed, the next 3 jets finishing the job and continuing on, the 2 jets in the rear now closing through the freed sky. "What's with those last 2 jets, sir? Are they special?" "Ah, you do not have security clearance for that." "Indeed I do." "Yes you do, I am joking. Suppose that our bunker buster missiles do not complete the job, the Iranian site being too deep as it is rumored to be." "Then they could salvage it, and if it was far enough along in its enrichment process." "Yes." "Are you telling me what I think you're telling me?" "Yes." "The first wave is at the target, sir, and dumping the bunker busters. Get me the live satellite on my screen. Analysis? Those lines are the depths reached by the bunker busters, sir. That block still beneath is the nuclear plant as newly illuminated by a special probe that we sent in first." "No good, was it?" "The busters did not reach the target, sir." The defense minister transmitted a code to the last 2 jets, and then bowed his head in prayer. All waited. "They've dropped their nukes, sir, fighting fire with fire." Frederick received an update. "Gentlemen, ladies, and Colonel Patov and wife, we've entered a new age. The area of the Iranian nuclear plant and its surroundings will be uninhabitable for several centuries to come." "God save us all," cried Patov. Major Igorov took temporary command of the SVR. He would later find that his command continued, for the real Nikitin had mysteriously disappeared, and no one would ask any questions of this, it being the old Soviet way. Igorov now sat at Patov's desk, ready for the tasks to come. He took a rare moment to break character and smiled to himself. No improved truth serum injections had actually happened, for he'd only gone through the motions. He would carry on Anna's legacy, for he too was a member of the Ninja Empire.